Good morning, and thank you for joining us on this SAG-AFTRA live stream on YouTube. To stay informed about all of our live stream and video events, we invite you to subscribe to this channel. You can go ahead and do that right now. Today, we present the President's Task Force on Education Outreach and Engagement live stream, Performers and Industry Versatility. The presentation will begin momentarily. If you have questions that you'd like to direct to today's guests, please email pteoe@sagaftra.org. That's pteoe@sagaftra.org. As a reminder, today's program is being recorded and you can watch the replay right here on SAG-AFTRA's YouTube channel, along with more great content. Now, please give a warm welcome to today's host, SAG-AFTRA Executive Vice President, Rebecca Damon.
Thank you, Pam. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We have such a terrific panel here for you today. I've been excited about it for a while. This is Performers and Industry Versatility. And as we present today's topic, I just want you to know you are going to be in such great hands with a renowned group of entertainment professionals. As everybody knows, SAG-AFTRA is a national union, and one of our fantastic markets is Chicago. And they're going to talk about just a little bit of an example of what's happening across the country. Our guests are going to discuss and provide a real industry insight about this thriving local market and all the many different hats that performers wear. They're going to cover topics about working about all the SAG-AFTRA contracts, the avenues for work-life balance in a market like Chicago, on-set experiences during the pandemic. We just have such a great group. Before we go too much further, though, I would like to say a quick hello from our national president, SAG-AFTRA President Gabrielle Carteris, who couldn't be here with us today, but I think is watching us in transit on the YouTube. We're going to miss her, but we will see her back here with us next week. Today's moderator is someone that I just absolutely have so much respect for. It's our SAG-AFTRA Chicago local president, Charles Andrew Gardner. For those of you who don't know Charles, you're going to know him by the end of this hour. He was born and raised on Chicago's South Side. He's an actor, an educator, and a filmmaker with a passion for illuminating the stories of the underrepresented. His on-camera credits are so numerous, I'm just going to give you a few. Chicago PD, Long Ride Home, Olympia, Noise and Color, Every 21 Seconds, and Holding On, as well as you've seen him in multiple national commercials. Charles is also a company member with the Timeline Theater Company, and he's appeared in Kill Move Paradise, Paradise Blue, My Kind of Town. He received his BFA in acting from Northern Illinois University, yay. Proud SAG-AFTRA member and member of Actors Equity Association. He is also an on-camera professor. So we've got Teach in the room here with us at DePaul University, a faculty member at the Acting Studio Chicago, and a teaching artist with Timeline, Steppenwolf, and the Goodman Theaters. We just couldn't be in better hands. Charles also sits as an associate producer board at the Gene Siskel Film Center and an advisory board member of Creative Cipher. Gosh, Charles, you are a busy man. I'm so grateful that you're here with us today to moderate this conversation. I know you've got so much to talk about, so I'm going to just toss it over to you so we can get started.
Hey, thank you, Rebecca, for that introduction. It's something about having somebody else read your bio. You're like, oh yeah, I did do those things.
You did.
And everybody, I'm really excited to say hello from Chicago. And I'm really excited to host this panel of amazing artists, agents, casting directors. I've been wanting to do this for a while. So let me return the favor that Rebecca just gave to me and remind these wonderful folks of what they've done and introduce y'all to some amazing people from Chicago. I'm going to start off just sharing a little bit about Courtney Rioux. Courtney Rioux is an actor. She's a coach. She's a podcast host. She's been playing paramedic Courtney for 60 seasons on NBC Chicago Med. She's the voice of Jimmy Dean and the spokesperson for Hot Shot. Courtney can be seen in Marilyn Barrett's film American. I think I said that right. Courtney is the host and creator of the podcast The Whole Artist with Courtney Rioux. And she coaches actors on mindset and emotional intelligence and serves as VP on our local board here in Chicago for SAG-AFTRA. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us today.
Thanks. Yay. You did say right. Hi, American.
Hi, American. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we got, I've been a fan of James for quite some time, so I'm really, really excited to have him on the panel. James Vincent Meredith, body of work spans film, television, and theater. His feature credits include Widows, starring Viola Davis, Princess Sid, and Knives and Skin. TV credits include Opal Rackley in Fargo. He's a series regular for that. Barry Vaughn on NBC Chicago Med, Alderman Ross on Boss for Stars, Proven Innocent, Exorcist, Shameless, and Betrayal. So he's working all the TV in Chicago. Meredith has been a member of Chicago Steppenwolf Theater Company for over a decade, and Broadway credits include Superior Donuts and Book of Mormon. Welcome, James. Glad to have you.
Ooh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah. Next up, we have Sam Samuelson. He is the director of Stewart Talent Chicago and Atlanta, and also co-owner for Stewart Talent in Los Angeles. Prior to being an agent, he was an actor, proud member of SAG-AFTRA and Equity. He performed on Broadway and international tours and national tours, regional theater, TV, film, commercials, voiceover, and original cast recordings. He taught and lectured at various universities and colleges throughout the country, including his alma mater, the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. And he was the first recipient of the Young Alumni Award for Excellence in the entertainment industry. Welcome, Sam. Good to have you.
And thank you for having me, Charles. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, everyone.
And it's going to be really cool to have that dual experience of actor and agent on this panel. So I'm
you know what, Charles? Let's hope that I still remember what it's like to be an actor. It's been 20 years, but that's my hope. So yes, let's we'll see.
Once an actor, always an actor. And last but certainly not least, we have Christal Karge and Marissa Ross from Karge and Ross Casting, the casting directors located right here in Chicago. Their casting office is currently casting Chicago Med, The Chi, Power Book 4 Force, and new pilot Big Leap. Recent credits include Single Drunk Female, Disney Channel movie Christmas Again, new pilot Ordinary Joe, soundtrack Next, the final season of Empire, TV movie The Thing About Harry, feature film Hala, I hope I said that right, feature Captive State. Marissa is best known for casting hit series How I Met Your Mother, and Christal is best known for casting award-winning Justified during their time working in Los Angeles. Both were nominated for Artos Awards for outstanding casting for the series The Chi. So glad to have you ladies in Chicago casting for us, and also so glad to have you all on this panel.
Yay!
Thanks for having us.
We're happy to be here. We love it here.
Great. So before we get into the panel, before we get into the questions, I want to know, what have y'all been up to? We are in the middle of a pandemic. We are in the middle of trying to figure out what's going to be next for our industry. So before we even get into the industry talk, I want to know, just as people, as artists, what have y'all been up to?
Well, I'll jump in. I've been stuck at home for 10 months, and I'm actually weirdly in the office today because my internet went out this morning. But I do feel as though I've been growing into my home. I'm literally like one of the walls. I'm part of my house. And I think, we've been obviously actively working as an agency, but the real key has been trying to connect with people in this realm and trying to figure out creative ways to work with Zoom and connect. I think we're all hoping for as much human connection as possible in a situation where we're feeling so isolated. So this kind of forum is just so freeing, and I'm just appreciative that you have put this together, and thank you. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Have a 311-day streak on Duolingo.
Whoa. What language are you learning? Say it again.
Spanish.
Yeah, nice. Nice. That's a great streak.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Thank you, pandemic. I have never been so dedicated to my 15 minutes of Duolingo a day.
Silver linings. What about James, Christal, Courtney? What have y'all been up to?
Well,
Yo, go ahead. I was going to say I've been spending a lot of time as superintendent of my house school here because my second grader is remote. My wife is a kindergarten teacher, and she, up until this past week, was remote. And so I've been kind of staying out of everyone's way and helping when I can, which is basically keeping my son on task and bringing my wife snacks. So that's been about it.
I'm on the other
Superintendent
side
job.
of that, James. I have a kindergartner who just started school, so starting e-learning, and she went back last week in person. So yeah, I am working on being a teacher while Zoom auditioning and doing all of that. So it's a good balance. And I also have a 2-year-old who's running wild throughout the house always. And a newborn. So
Hopefully,
you
it's
know.
not too terrible.
Congratulations. Oh, great.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah,
It's
when
Congrats.
awesome.
Christal, when did you have the baby? Because it's like a brand new baby. Like,
3 weeks ago.
right.
Whoa.
Oh my God. And you're on
here
Zoom with us. Oh, I've been working the whole time. So
I can tell you she's been working the whole time.
oh wow. This is actually a very nice break. I don't have someone hanging on me. So it's, we're fine.
Well, we're glad that we could give you that break. Courtney, what have you been up to?
Yeah, well, the thing my husband hates the most about me is that I do too much. And so like this pandemic has been good to slow me down, but it didn't slow me down enough because I had to break my ankle in order to slow me down even more. The universe was like, you need more just downtime, more rest time. But also I started a podcast during the pandemic, and James was actually my last interview that I posted. And we have a new biggest fan. His son, Evan, listens to it every night while he falls asleep. So, and sings the theme song.
For real, this is true.
Yeah, it's really cute. But just doing Chicago Med as well now that I can, now that I'm back on my feet, and cooking, a lot of resting and hanging out on the porch when it was warm, that kind of like hanging out with friends on a walk, masked walk, that kind of stuff. So really a lot more time to, I think, connect with people in different ways than we're used to, and slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that slowing down is super important, because I think that it's balance. I think that it's self-care, and something that I find for being a Chicago actor and, being an artist and actor in general, the hustle is real. The hustle is real. There's so much work to be had in Chicago across different sectors, right? Across different contracts, across, there's theater, television, commercials, film, indie, indie theater, all of this work. So I'm happy that you all are being able to spend some time with your family and slow down and kind of take care of yourselves. But we're not here completely to talk about slowing down. We're here to talk about the versatility of this market and the versatility of these actors. So I want to start us off with a question to James and Courtney. How did you all get your start? And maybe talk a little bit about the different areas of work that you do. Like James, I know you're a company member with Steppenwolf, ensemble member with Steppenwolf, and you do voiceover and television and film. How did you break into all of these markets? And same thing for Courtney, you do voiceover as well, and you recur on Chicago Med, and you got your own podcast. How did you know you wanted to start these things, and what was the beginning of it?
Well, I know that for me, being in Chicago, there's talking to a lot of more established actors when I was beginning, I noticed that a lot of them didn't do one thing. They did 2 things. They did 3 things, or in some cases 4 things. And but the good thing was each of those people to a person told me, you can make a living here. You can make a good living here. You just have to try and stay versatile. And so usually with a lot of them, it dealt with finding 2 or 3 things that they really keyed in on. And usually if the levels were low on one of them, they could go to one of the other 2, right? And so I find myself doing that a lot more at this point than I ever have. But I know that as far as Chicago is concerned, I joined SAG-AFTRA, gosh, that was 2002, I guess, and it was doing a voiceover for a PBS show of some sort, and that was, gosh, that was, yeah, 2002, I think. But before that, I was, shopping my one little minute of audio around and saying, please listen to my demo to this agency and that agency or whatever. And luckily, Stuart Talent took a shine to me and kind of got me started. But yeah, I've been kind of going, knock on wood, I've been really going probably since 2002 for the most part, without a regular job. So that's a good thing. I've had some lean times, but I think, I started by watching other people and seeing how they negotiated the world of theater, of course, because I'm an equity actor, but also how that worked as far as SAG and AFTRA, TV, voiceover, and all those things, and finding that the people who I looked up to the most were able to make sure that all of those plants were watered so that if they really needed to lean on one, it was there.
Mm-hmm.
So
great.
Yeah.
I love that analogy, just making sure all of your plants are watered. And you see, I got a couple of plants back there.
I was looking at you. Yeah.
I buy into that. Courtney, what about you? How'd you get your start?
Yeah, so I started out doing equity theater, musical theater, actually. I was singer, dancer, actor. And then actually I auditioned for Sam Samuelson, and he so kindly told me to get my butt into on-camera classes if I wanted to work in the city. And I'm grateful for that, because I started to take classes at the Green Room Studio, and they hired me as the kids teacher there. And I learned so much from Sean and teaching at the Green Room. And one day Sean was like, if you really want to be a working actor and make a living in Chicago, you should get a voiceover demo. And I took his advice immediately and got coaching and got a voiceover demo. And that is really when I started to make a living as an actor, a steady income as an actor. And then, we're getting more and more TV here. So that's been really nice to have that recurring role. So I can have my health insurance and a steady income. And I also just love helping other actors with their mindset and booking jobs and things like that. So even though I don't necessarily need to do coaching and teaching, I still do because I love it. But it's also something that, like, if, I stopped booking Chicago Med or I stopped booking all this voiceover, that I could have that to lean back on and still be in this area, in the arts and helping other people do that. But I love doing it all. I have a Google Calendar that is crazy color coded and helps keep me on track.
Yeah. And I think that the majority of actors that I talk to in Chicago share that same mindset, right? That share that same mindset of capitalizing on the market that we're in and all of the work opportunities that we have. Sam, how, from an agent's perspective, do you leverage that, right? So we're doing voiceover and we're booking voiceover. How do you take that and then say, hey, Christal, Marissa, this person's doing all of this great work in this area. You should really see them for this role on TV, or vice versa, right? Hey, James is on stage and doing this great work in this theater show. We should take that and try to get him some voiceover work. So I guess really the question is how do we, from an agent standpoint, market and leverage the versatility of actors when they're doing a whole bunch?
That's a great question. I don't know if I'm going to directly answer that, but I think what we've seen as a theme and the center of all of this is that we, as agents in Chicago, represent people for film, TV, theater, commercials, and industrials. It's a very Chicago thing. You might be in New York with a commercial agency, then you might have legit theatrical representation somewhere else. Chicago is designed differently, that all of that is within one department. So in a sense, an actor in Chicago is a utilitarian. We can point them in many different directions. So really how we try to market, and to answer your question, is to find the center, which is the person, and in essence, push the truth, if that makes sense. Find their center and say, so it's not really leveraging from theater or leveraging from TV film. It's just getting it in front of the casting director, pushing them, and typically in Chicago, we all know each other pretty well. They'll give us a chance, and then it starts to roll. There's often times where we'll start working with somebody, we're submitting them on a ton of different projects in all these different mediums, and they're not popping in certain areas. That's when we really can focus and start to leverage, and where the market's not reacting to the actor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And one more question to follow up with that. Say if somebody's, they're focused in one area, right? How do you encourage them to kind of explore, like Courtney said, get your butt into some on-camera classes or get your, try to figure out voiceover? Do you encourage them to branch out? And if 100%. So, what do you say?
Get training in the areas that you don't have training in. Somebody like James, for instance, who came to us with, through our voiceover department, had just this terrific theatrical legit background, which is the case with many people in Chicago. They come from theater and it's crossing them over to film television. It's the more ways that we can submit you and push you, the better it is for the actor, hence the best it is for the agency that's representing that actor.
Yeah, great. Well, after we start with the actor, right, and their versatility, and we take all of that and we give it to a wonderful agent like Sam to get us opportunities. Here comes Christal and Marissa. So talk to me, y'all, about what you like to see, right? Because you all both came from LA, so you had a nice amount of time casting projects out in Los Angeles, and now you're casting here, still casting projects that come to Chicago from LA. What is it about Chicago actors that you absolutely love that you don't see anywhere else? And let me step back, because the versatility of the actor isn't just confined to Chicago. All right, we're here in Chicago talking about that, but there's actors all across the country that have the same versatility. So when you're interacting with actors that have that versatile resume, what is it about that resume that stands out to you? And what are some of those positive attributes from those actors that have that versatile background that you just love to see?
I think those were 17 questions, but we're gonna break them down. First of all, Christal and I use this moment. We're going to use this moment to anyone who's watching who may not be Chicago based to advertise for Chicago. Like, come move here. This is an awesome place to work, and there are so many opportunities. So when Christal and I first opened up our office, Christal, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
We didn't know how much television there was really going to be, because we definitely work in other, with features and sometimes commercials, but television is really what we do and what we love. And we weren't sure how much there was going to be. And there is so much work and quality roles and opportunities that performers here have, that I hope everybody on this panel is okay, that we are encouraging people come work in this awesome market, because what everyone else was saying, the versatility here too, as a performer, that you can work in these amazing theaters, these storefront projects. You can have an agent who will get you a voiceover on the same day audition as everything else. It's a really amazing place to work as a performer and to live. It's just cold, but it's a great place to be. Now, in terms of what we're looking for, or what makes Chicago actors special, is from the very beginning, I've always been impressed with how prepared Chicago actors are. They really take the time to a point where they're almost too hard on themselves, where they aren't word perfect, and I could see them being hard on themselves about it. But Christal and I have always talked about this. We've always been so impressed how every single audition that Chicago performers come in for us, they are prepared. It is well thought out. They really have their true take on the character. And that's impressive, because that's all an audition is. It's proving at that moment you're the only person who should and could play this character. That's what an audition is. And so it's always been impressive for us. Christal, you want to take it?
I was going to say, to add to that, I think that's because Chicago allows people to be whole people, to have families, have lives, do theater, do other things. So when you're fulfilled in all areas of your life or most areas of your life, you can bring another perspective to the character. You bring what you just did on stage. You have the proper training. I mean, the training of actors here. And just then you come in and you are ready to go. And sometimes it takes tweaking, like, oh, we're doing theater, let's tweak it for film and TV. But that's such an easy thing to do when you have the training. In Chicago, I've always been so impressed with that, the idea that Courtney went and took an on-camera class and honed those skills, that people are doing the work and living full lives. They come to us with such a great perspective that it's not just I'm doing, 51 line auditions every day. You're coming in for a guest star, you're coming in for a co-star, you just had a lead in theater. You're more of a whole person. And I think that just allows for a better audition and work.
And honestly, to go back into the theme of being versatility, it also applies to Christal and I. Working here, we're both mothers. We both have 3 children each. We're both able to live beautiful, well-rounded lives here, really engaged in the work that we do. And we love the work we do and the projects that we work on, but also that we could be engaged in our children's life and things like that. I look forward to museums opening again.
Hey, am I allowed to jump in here?
Yeah.
Jump in, Sam.
So I think the well-rounded aspect, having, family, everything that has nothing to do with the business is actually what makes the business so vibrant here. That to me is really a defining part of Chicago. As we're saying, everybody has families, it's affordable to live here. But it also, there's a freshness that comes when you don't put all of your value into what you do. It's not who you are, it's what you do. And you're able to bring that in. And I think people might be a bit more relaxed and feel good about themselves, not just as an actor, but as, a parent or, somebody that does other things. It's that really is the key, I think, to Chicago too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing you say just that balance, not only across the industry, right? Making sure that we're doing a little bit of theater, a little bit of voiceover, a little bit of on camera, but also the balance in our lives, like making sure that like we have hobbies, making sure that we're spending time with family, making sure that we have passions outside of it. So that way our artist is being fed, our passions are being fed, and it's not solely reliant on the whims of the business.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was going to add, the other thing that struck me when I moved from LA to Chicago is the support that the community has, other actors. I'd go see theater in LA and I wouldn't recognize anyone. I came to see theater in Chicago and you can't help but recognize so many other actors in the audience, agents, other casting directors, people being supportive, coming. It's such a community. And I think that is something that is really amazing and also kind of facilitates the feel of Chicago and being able to do so many things and have different people to talk to and that community feel.
Yeah, people help each other here. Actors help each other, but also agents, which is not, your normal thing. We have great relationships with the other talent agencies in Chicago. I mean, we'll go out for drinks, we'll talk, we'll share information. It happens, but we don't poach from each other. There's sort of an old school kind of, communal, it's almost sort of a not-for-profit-y kind of feel that we help each other. And I don't know if that's Midwest. I don't know what it is, but to me, it's the reason why I like to do what I do. It's not about let's make money and get 10%. It's about let's help people. It might come from the theatrical background where ensemble actors need to work with each other. It's not about ego. I'm not really sure. I don't know, but I think it's a lovely part of the city for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely about collaboration over competition. When we see people in the lobby, we're not like, oh, they're going to get that role and I need to get that role. It's just like you come out and you're like, oh gosh, it was great. They ask you 2 questions about, what you did over the weekend and you're not like secretive about it. And if it's my role, it's my role. If it's your role, it's yours. And I'm not going to try to sabotage you to not get that role.
One more thing I want to add is that the work here, the training here, and the theatrical work here is really respected on a national level. So a lot of times Christal and I will do searches for pilots that are not shooting here, and they may not have any television credits, but we say we just saw them starring at the Goodman. We just saw them in a Steppenwolf show. And that's enough, because that gravitas, it's respected on a national level, that versatility of work, that they may not have 7 guest star credits on their resume, but their other training that, they were in the ETC Second City stage is enough that it's respected nationwide.
That's great. So the training, the community, the versatility, all things that are kind of stamps of the Chicago actor and the Chicago experience. James, I want to throw this back to you, because you spoke a little bit earlier about how when you started your career, you were fortunate enough to hear from some actors that said, hey, be versatile. Now that you've had a very versatile career, and I think a very fruitful career, if you could hop in your time machine and be one of those voices of advice to past James, beginning James, or right now to the people who are watching this, what would you say? What uniquely Chicago lessons have you learned, and how has that affected the start of your career?
I think a lot of people spoke to it, the idea that, certainly Courtney mentioned it, when you go into an audition, you're running into people who you've seen at a number of them, because as big as Chicago is, we're a big town and we're a small town. Like we run into a lot of the same people at a lot of the same auditions. And as you age into older roles, you run into other people who you just start running into the same people, which is incidentally what I miss a lot of now that we do a lot of self-tapes and we can't really be in the room with each other. Mm-hmm. But I remember it happens all the time. I hope you get it. I don't get it. I hope you get it. And I mean that. Like, and when people say it to me here, I actually believe them. Like, mm-hmm. It's because Chicago is very much in the, we all root for each other here, and we're all really happy when we look on, a network show or cable or something like that, and we see someone who's actually doing some heavy lifting, and it's a Chicago actor, and you root for that person, and you're really happy, like genuinely happy when you see someone who has been grinding, like not for months, but for years. When you see them in the same rooms and you finally see them on something and they're cooking, that's you can actually get very emotionally full, when you see that. I would say to people who are starting, and I don't know if this is like necessarily new advice, but what I've always kind of lived by is that everyone, once you get to a certain level, we all believe we have talent, right? Like we all have something, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this, or we all believe we have something, otherwise we'd be doing something else. So if you're all coming into the same room with that, believing you all have that talent, it's so easy to be kind, and it's so easy to play well with each other. I was speaking with Courtney on her podcast about the idea that, you all have, it's you want to be a good clubhouse person, right? Like if you're playing baseball, like you want to be that person that's like, he's a good clubhouse guy, or she's really good in the clubhouse, because they hang out, they talk, they relax, they talk to each other, they have a smile on their face, or they're ready to learn, and they're ready to tell the story together, and they're leaning forward positively. Mm-hmm. And that cannot be overstated, like the importance of going into a room with that energy, because we all have a degree of talent. Now you got to learn how to play together. And if it's between you and someone who isn't really doing that, they're going to go with you because they know that you like to play well with others. And so that to me is not new advice, but advice that I think has kept me employed for several years.
I think it not only makes you happier to live life that way, but it just makes it easier and less stress. And when you're not like stressed out about getting the job, or, you're just there to add to like, if I'm going into Karge Ross casting, I'm thinking, how can I help them? Like they have a job to do and I am here to help them. And whether I get the job or not, me being there and doing a good job is helping them.
Yeah. Because it's that
really quickly,
collaboration. Go ahead, Marissa.
I was going to say, for Courtney and her success, it's also about, being a team player. Once you actually get the job, they love her at Chicago Med because she's such a wonderful team player. They love her. And so what happens is work begets work, they keep adding her in over and over and over again. And when she broke her ankle, I think I called every week. Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? The producers kept asking, is she ready yet? Is she ready yet? Can she come back yet? Because they love her. And because she is such a positive team player as part of that whole atmosphere of that, as a testimony to her and how that just keeps adding you into the show that you're on.
Thank you.
I think that's a perfect segue into the next question that I want to ask. And this can be for James and Courtney, and also it could be, Sam and Marissa and Karge, this is really for everybody. Just a brief thought. What is it that brings you back, right? We're talented. We are hard workers. We're taking it professionally because we're part of the part of the union, but we get the audition, we go to set, we shoot. What can we do on set that's going to help us come back? That's going to help us continue to work? Just a brief answer on that.
Yeah, I think, you can guess all day long, but I actually had Michael Pressman on my podcast, not to keep talking about it, you guys, but he's the executive producer of Chicago Med. And I said, hey, people ask me all the time, like, why do I keep getting called back? Like, how do actors get called back? And he said, you're fully committed, no matter if it's one line or, 2 days of work or whatever it is, you're fully committed. Everybody loves you. You come on with a smile. Like, you could tell you're grateful to be there. So I think having an attitude of gratitude is really important in life and also on set. I also learn everybody's name and use everybody's name. And in the beginning, I would give lots of thank you cards. I probably should continue that. I don't anymore 6 years in, but in the beginning, I sent so many thank you cards to everybody from grips and and casting, and everybody got a thank you card, executive producers. So that's just something that I do to show that I'm grateful. I'm happy to be there. I'm not wondering oh, when are you going to give me a bigger part? Every day that I'm there.
Just being grateful for what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Anything else that we want to add to that, y'all?
I agree.
You said it all, Courtney. When we are taking a look at balance, right? Because we're doing all of this stuff. What are you all doing to take care of yourselves? Like, what are you doing to, the old saying, work-life balance, or now is kind of replacing itself with self-care. Like, what are you all doing to balance all of this work we're doing? Take care of yourselves.
I got a Headspace meditation app, so I'm doing that. We were given a treadmill, so I'm trying to run every day. Mm-hmm. And then that would be my little self-care for Sam during the mm-hmm. pandemic.
Okay, I'll go. We got a Peloton. That's pretty nice. Fun. It lives up to the hype. I do meditation every day, and I make sure that when I'm working a lot as an actor, I have to take a step back at the other things that I do in my life. And when I'm not working so much as an actor, I can push forward with them, and just giving myself permission to not do everything all the time, all at once. I'm just trying to spend time, like quality time with my husband, a weekly date night. We don't have kids yet, so it's, I think, probably easier to do that. But watching lots of TV and movies is also like not only work for me, but relaxing and fun. So I do a lot of that.
Courtney, how are you able to do a date night during the pandemic? Do you just go out for a drive? Like, what do you do?
We've done a drive. I've only done one so far, but I ordered a date night in a box subscription. There's one from Happily, and then I got one from Created with Love. And this is a really fun thing. It came with a bunch of games to play, like, and it was all awards night themed was what they sent me. And so it was like we were pretending we were at the awards and we were doing movie trivia and, you know, stuff like that. Or we'll pick a movie, because a lot of times we'll just get stuck binge watching TV. So we'll be like, let's actually watch a movie, like a really good movie, that kind of thing. So it is more difficult, but we were making a lot of cocktails in the beginning of the pandemic. And then we were like, we have to stop this because just so much drinking.
Yeah.
That was me with bread. So much bread.
Yeah.
Were you making
sourdough bread? Everyone
Oh,
was making
man.
sourdough bread. It was
We
crazy.
had a starter from a neighbor a couple blocks away, and I kept that sucker going for like 2 or 3 months, and, not so good because it was too good. But I find myself doing a lot of just hanging out with my family, my son and I went sledding yesterday. He got a nice little mouse under his eye. I'm like, no, it looks cool, dude. And so we get out and we do a lot of that. We try to go hiking when we can. So, I find myself taking more of these, I guess they call them nature baths, like trying to be outside as much as I can, even when it's cold. I find that to be really helpful for me.
Yeah, reconnect back to nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marissa, Christal, anything you want to add to that self-care?
Well, we all know about my Duolingo, and I'm also doing that for the piano. I'm on Simply Piano. I'm just going to advertise for a bunch of apps here today. I'm also doing Simply Piano because I've always wanted to learn that. But my family, I have 3 boys, so we are outside constantly. We have become just a nature family. You should see the front part of my house. It's just all different snowsuits and everything, all these cross-country skis that I bought at Play It Again Sports. We're just trying to be outside as much as we can. I'll be working and pretending like I'm in an office and I'm on top of, like, I'm at Starved Rock, but I'll be like, yeah. You don't hear anything behind me. Yeah. That's great. Let's do that deal. So, but that's what we're doing is self-care in this family. So otherwise it would just turn into like a fight club in the basement with 3 boys.
Glad you're getting outside then.
Yeah, you gotta get them outside.
What about you, Christal?
The funny thing is I live out in the burbs, so my commute in to work normally is very long, and I'm usually on the phone calling. So it's been really nice to be able to be home during the day with my kids. So lunchtime is something, from when my little kindergartner has her break, we all sit down for lunch. My husband's working from home as well. And it's really nice to just like have a break in the middle of the day to like connect and be like, what did you do at school this morning? How is this? That it's, really joyful to have that extra time and try and be grateful for that, won't exist forever, but is nice to kind of witness and see all of that. So yeah, it's good.
Siestas are necessary. Go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to ask you, Charles, you have like the coolest life. Like what about you? What do you do? And can you please tell everyone about the puppies?
Oh yeah. So I have a golden doodle. Her name is Chai. She's fantastic, and she just had puppies. So a lot of my self-care is just revolving around puppy love, y'all. And watching them open their eyes and take some of their first steps. I think my wife she's about to bring a few of them in just a second. So you'll get to see. Don't worry, y'all. Other than that, I meditate. I do yoga on a daily basis. I love to get outside. I'm that same way. Like I love to reconnect to nature. And I just take my time and I live life, right? And I take care of my plants and look at these puppies, y'all.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Puppies.
Oh, Charles. Charles and the puppies. Yes, they're so
Rebecca, I see you're back. I want to ask one more question before we get into the questions from the membership. And this question ties into the membership, okay? I want to ask you all, what effect has SAG-AFTRA had on your careers? As the actors, as talent agents, as casting directors, right? Working with SAG-AFTRA, how has that helped to grow your business, and how has that helped to grow your perspective around being an actor or being a support to actors?
I know for me, it was one of the ultimate goals of being a professional actor was to join the union. When I was in theater, it was for Actors Equity, and I accomplished that before I quit doing theater. And then for SAG-AFTRA, when I got my cards, they were separate. I got my SAG card through voiceover, and then I got my AFTRA card through voiceover. And I just felt more like a professional. And I know that I now have health insurance because of it. I make a living because I know that I'm going to get paid what I'm worth for being there for the day or the whatever the term is. So I've also just met some amazing people through the KRC is in Chicago. We have the Coffer Resource Center, and we do classes there. And, during the pandemic, we're even doing virtual classes, VO jams, on-cam jams. You're all welcome to come teach if you want. Yeah, one of the jams or facilitate the jams. And even just Wake Up Wednesdays and just a way to connect with other members and stay in touch with the union. I don't know if that's what you actually asked, but that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, I think so. What I'm hearing you say is just a stamp of professionalism and then also community, right? Tying back into that thing that we were talking about earlier on the benefits
Exactly.
of Chicago. Anybody else care to add in before I pass it over to Rebecca?
No, just the idea of that professional thing, like what she was talking about, as far as feeling like I'm a pro, like, and I have some pretty good ability to be a part of these unions that don't just take anyone, and to maintain that membership for so long, that makes me feel really confident, I guess, in what I do. So, and also just as a resource, like I was looking at the schedule, like next week with audiobooks, and I'm just like, yeah, I got to sign up for that. So there's like, it's a great resource for me. I love to take advantage of that stuff.
Yeah, and on the agent front, obviously the standards that are in place and the contracts that are in place, but we're very involved on the agency front, talking to the union, because as agents, we're always in between problems and we're trying to help figure it out. And I got to tell you, knowing that you have a union behind you as an agent is very, very helpful. So the resources and the standards and the just getting somebody on the phone in minutes when there's a problem is extremely helpful to have our back as agents.
I want to say, especially with the pandemic, knowing that there's going to be testing and there's going to be safety protocols in place, like that was really important. I saw pictures from non-union shoots going on in the middle of the pandemic where nobody's wearing a mask and nobody's testing. And it's like, I'm just glad to know that that's not even allowed where we're going.
I was going to say that kind of the same thing as things were starting to get back up. We had quite a few inquiries for things that weren't union and Marissa and I would be like, oh, this doesn't sound safe, with the COVID stuff. So having that guidance and knowing people on set are protected and they're, from a studio perspective, from SAG-AFTRA, it was helpful for us to know when we could go back to work.
And a shout out to the SAG office here and to Kathy. I mean, we could call her any time of the day and she will answer if we ever have any
questions. I do too, as an actor. I call her all the time or text or email.
Yeah. And for my folks that are in Chicago and wherever you are around the country, lean on your local. Lean on them as actors. If you're uncertain around if a project is cleared, or if you have questions, or if you get on set and something's just not quite right. If you're in Chicago, call Kathy, call Sean. If you're somewhere else in a different local, call whoever that local is, right? We all work together to make sure that our industry is super strong and that as actors, we are fully supported. Rebecca, I want to pass it back to you so we can get some questions in from the members.
Yeah, we got so many great questions. There is a flavor that runs through a lot of them because we've definitely got a lot of folks from Chicago watching, but we do have folks asking questions from around the country. And I'm going to start with a little bit of the trying to understand, in the market. In Chicago, do you need to have an agent in order, it's different from market to market. Do you need to have an agent? How many agents are there? So there's some basic, give us the landscape type questions that maybe folks could jump in on to describe that in a little more detail. They loved the conversation, though. We've gotten such great feedback already. I'm seeing it come in.
I would say in Chicago, out of all the cities, you don't have to have an agent to be successful. You can have a full theater career. You can submit directly to casting directors, a little more so than you might in another city. But you can have a career here without having to have an agent, although we're very, very, very helpful on the SAG-AFTRA side of things, and of course in theater. But it is not a necessity. Casting directors go out and see theater in Chicago. They know the pulse of the city. So oftentimes a casting director will call us to place an actor or other agencies.
Not a necessity, but I was going to say extremely, and I'm not just saying this because Sam is on this call, extremely helpful. I've found that there have been several times when I've had my agents talk me down off of like a panicked feeling regarding a role, regarding whether it be theater, Sam, you know this, or on camera, where I've been very unsure about how to proceed or whether to proceed or the steps I should take to be effective. And while the agent is not looked at as a psychologist, I found that I've been talked off the roof many a time. And so I find agents to be very effective, not simply just because of work, but also because they're kind of guiding you along the way to a degree until you figure out how to walk on your own. So not necessary, sure. Useful, extremely.
Yeah, I think, James, and thank you, by the way, but I think what I'm trying to do maybe is empower younger people that it's not a necessity, that we are not the key to your success. We can be helpful, in Chicago.
Agree with that, certainly.
Yeah.
And for our casting directors, do you take direct submissions? And go ahead. I see you raising your hand. Go for it.
Well, Rebecca, just from a really practical standpoint here in Chicago, it's its own sort of entity. So obviously television moves very fast. We put out a breakdown either on breakdown services or casting networks, and it moves very fast so that we do have the agencies to help us with that. But it's only seen by Chicago agents and managers. So LA or New York, agencies do not see our local breakdowns for things that we put here. So just in a practical standpoint, that's sort of how it works in this market. It's enclosed in upon itself in that television world for those breakdowns.
I think that's definitely at the heart of what was being asked. We have a question from somebody that's clearly starting out in the business, recent new SAG-AFTRA member, and they're wanting to know what kind of networking opportunities, and I think the way that they've implied, obviously it's a little different during the pandemic, but what kind of networking opportunities might there be for actor new to Chicago, new to SAG-AFTRA membership? I think Courtney touched a little bit about getting engaged with classes and things like that. Are there other community meetups and things like that that people should be aware about in Chicago?
Yeah, I think getting involved, getting on the email list for the Coffer Resource Center, maybe we can put that in a chat somewhere. I don't know, but definitely getting on that email list and, going to a virtual Wake Up Wednesday where it's just at 10 a.m. Central on Wednesdays. Everybody just has their coffee and is just chatting with each other, or getting in on those classes. Charles, are you thinking of any other, classes in general in, at the green room, at the acting studio, at the Second City, we have so many great classes, and now everything is virtual. So even if you aren't from Chicago, you can really learn from great improvisers in Chicago right now that you maybe wouldn't if you weren't here, or if it weren't the pandemic.
I think you definitely hit it on the head, Courtney, with tying into the KRC. That is a resource that, I loved it when we were in person. I love it now. I
Yeah.
pop in on those Wake Up Wednesdays every now and again, just to touch base and say, hey, and see some faces that's outside of my house, right? I think also take advantage of all of the live streams and all of the webinars that's happening. I know I teach over at the acting studio. We have a bunch of things that we, bring in some of the casting directors, agents for. So there's just tons of the community is still trying to support and still be there for each other. So make sure that your ear is just to the ground for webinars and for seminars and for live streams, because they help out, and it gives you that sense of community that we definitely thrive on when outside is open.
Great. This question is specific to Chicago, but I think it's actually something that's come up in almost every one of these where that we even touch on this topic. I think a lot of members have anxiety about not being able to come in and audition personally. And so this question lays out, do people who are seeing this know that we're not also lighting directors, camera operators, all this stuff? And are there tips and tricks that you all from the professional side of this would want to lay? And then I have another question from another, this is from a Chicago member saying that they think that the community at Izzy is really gracious about this, and they feel like they give really, that there's a lot of leeway and people are very kind about it. So I've got two sort of questions juxtaposing themselves. I'm going to let you guys just jump in and talk about the new world of auditioning and how you guys approach it.
Yep, I'll start off and then I'll pass it on off, y'all. I would say whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable, right? Confidence is everything. So if you feel that you need to have a setup at home and that makes you feel good, know that you're not a lighting designer, but there's a whole bunch of webinars out there that you can watch. Just make sure you're lit well from the front, make sure that you can be heard, make sure that you can be seen, and there's nothing distracting behind you. While like this is a great setup for this Zoom, this isn't a great setup for my self-tape, right? Like I don't want people looking at anything but me when I'm going. And with that, I'll just pass it off to whoever else wants to add on to that.
Marissa, I think you were going to say something.
I think Christal too. I think we were both going to talk about this.
We can talk together.
We're living in a world of self-tapes right now, and it really depends on the project. One of our projects, all we need is a self-tape, and then they're just hiring from self-tapes. There's been no callbacks whatsoever. That tape is enough. And if for some reason we are obviously, if we get a self-tape and we don't think it's their best work, or if we have notes or we can't hear, we will ask for another one. If they're not able to do it, we will offer to Zoom with them and then record the Zoom and use that as the audition. We have other projects where we're turning in our link of self-tapes that we're recommending and then having Zoom callbacks. And in some ways it's been great because people have been able to very quickly have these callbacks and not have to worry about getting a babysitter or you know what I mean, that they're able to jump on and do this at their home and have to get in their car, and that we could have the executives from LA or wherever be on these calls. You know, in some ways we've done a lot of studio tests this way via Zoom, and it's worked out in a fantastic way. So there have been some advantages to it, but we don't think you need to buy a giant ring light, you know, anything like that. I'm using my natural light on me right now from, you know, I don't have any lights on. So we don't think that you have to overinvest. You just need to find a nice, quiet, simple place with good lighting. That's it, whatever that is in your house. Christal?
I was going to say, we want to be able to hear and see you. Kind of the same thing when people ask, what does my headshot need to be, or any of those. Like, it needs to look like you, sound like you. And like Marissa said, if we have a problem and we think you're the person for the part, we're going to go back to you and say, can you tweak this or do that? We're not going to send what we don't feel is your best work. And that's what we do when you come in the room to see us as well. You know, if we have to do it a few times, that's what we do. If you hit it out of the park the first, you know, go, that's all we need too. So it's a very similar process. I think it feels isolating at times, but know that we are watching. We will give you feedback, and we want you to be the answer. We want to cast you. And, you know, a lot of our projects are casting off of the self-tape. So you guys are doing a great job. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Don't be so hard on yourself. And remember also, we are trying to give as big of a turnaround time as we can. So, some projects, some characters you might have 72 hours, some you might have 30 hours. And that's just because that's how fast we have to, because we're also limited now, not only for television does it fast to turn around to get somebody to wardrobe, we have to have enough time for them to have COVID testing. So a lot of these roles, we have to get cast quicker than normally so that we can then have them do their 3 days of COVID testing before they ever wardrobe or shoot. So now these windows are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I know that it could feel frustrating that I don't have enough time to get this character down, but we are giving you as much time as we can. So that's part of it too. We're staying up till 2 a.m. going through the self-tapes because we got to get the link out, at 7 a.m., things like that.
I just have a quick question for both Marissa and Christal. Are you both able to see more people now that everything is self-tape?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you guys, think about it this way. You're sending in your best work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You could do this, you could do that audition as many times as you want, rather than coming in and you're like, shit, could have done that better.
But,
do you know what I mean?
There's the flip side to that too, where because the actor is working in a fishbowl, they're like possibly over taping or overworking, like doing it 20 times to get the perfect take. Can you see that in the tapes?
And then
sometimes?
using number one.
That's right. But can you see sometimes people working too hard in these tapes?
Sure, it's just like an audition coming in for us, right, where if you're over rehearsed, you know what I mean, and you can't adjust because you've done it the same way every time, which is something that I think Chicago actors do it really well because they're used to theater and being in the moment and listening. But I think that you, again, don't be so hard on yourself. Like a lot of times your first instinct is great. If you want to do it another way, send us 2. Don't send us 20. Don't do it, that many times that you're burnt out. It doesn't feel organic or real or authentic. So give yourself some grace with all of that. We know what you're up against. We're up against it too. Do your best and send us, there's no reason to do it 45 times and send us.
Ask questions. So you are in a vacuum, you're not in a room. And if you don't get that much material, you just get the sides and you're not quite sure what's happening, please ask. You could ask us, you could ask your agent to ask us, whatever you need. Definitely feel that we're there for you to answer anything that we can when we can't release full material on things.
Great.
So do you expect post-pandemic, and this is a question for you guys, and look into your crystal balls, that this will have changed the auditioning landscape forever? Or do you think we will go back to something when we've all been vaccinated and hopefully COVID and its variants are a thing of the past? Look into your crystal balls for this market. Do you think we're going to go back to what we think of as routine, or is this the new routine?
I think there'll be a hybrid. There are some things that for kids, it's always been tough on kid actors where families have to drive in from 2 hours away and they have their other 2 kids and they're waiting in the waiting room with their whole family. I mean, for some of those people, it might be easier for the kids. I mean, we know how Zoom savvy kids are now, that these kids can, the family would prefer to do self-tapes rather than driving everybody in. And like I said earlier about all the executives and all the different places that they all could pop onto a Zoom callback, that some of that might be here to stay, because rather than trying to get everybody's schedules in the same place at the same time. So what do you think, Christal?
I was going to use the word hybrid too. I think it'll be a combination where you're sending self-tapes, you're still doing that. But I think there's a lot of value to coming in the room. I enjoy, the face-to-face, giving notes, being able to, talk to someone about the character. So depending on what it is, I think it'll be a combination of a lot of self-tapes and then some in-person auditions too.
I have a question for Marissa and Christal, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
We talked a lot about you going to see theater to find new actors. How are you doing that in the pandemic? And do you think that will change again, once theater's back to normal? Will that be a hybrid?
I think it will. I think what Sam asked about, are we able to see more people? If we know we have 2 days of pre-reads to get to our producer session and I have 20 characters on this episode, I can only see a certain number. So what I'll do is I'll see people that I know I think are right. And then I'll see a certain number of people that I don't know yet, or, trying things out. But it has to be a combination because we have to get cast, with the self-tapes, we're able to put out a lot more appointments. So I'm more apt to take a chance on someone I've never seen, has no credits. Let's see what they do with this, because they can self-tape. I don't have to fit it into my 9 to 6 day of audition. So we're able to do that a little bit more. And I think for us, that's substituting a little bit for the lack of theater or outreach we're able to do at this moment. Marissa, would you say?
I agree. We are having to really rely on agencies pitching people and new people that we don't know, because we aren't able to get out there and see anything ourselves right now. But it has been exciting because we've definitely cast some new faces that we've never met in person. I look forward to meeting them in person someday. You know what I mean? So that definitely new faces that we haven't seen. So that's really exciting. And it is a larger amount of people are getting opportunities to audition for roles.
That's exciting.
That's great. Yeah.
We just have one last question, and this is from a Chicago member saying, if each of you could use one word, just one, I was going to allow two, but they wrote one word, just one word to sum up working in the Chicago market, what would it be? I'm going to start with the president of the Chicago local. Charles, you want to give us your one word?
Grit.
Grit. I like that. Courtney.
Community.
Community. James. I'm coming back to James. James is
Come
going
back to me, man.
He wants to be the wrap up batter. Marisa.
Artisanal.
Oh, that's fantastic. Christal.
I was going to say community, but I'm going to say fresh because it's like a fresh new.
Fresh. Sam.
Authentic.
Authentic. All right, James, wrap us up there.
Possible, I guess. Possible. Yeah.
That's very good. You guys were just an outstanding panel. I honestly, we could do this for the rest of the day. Folks really just loved hearing from you guys, both from Chicago and from around the country. We got such wonderful feedback. So I just want to thank you guys for the good discussion today. And I want to thank all the members who've tuned into these live stream events. We know it's been, it's been a crazy time in this pandemic, and to be able to be here, no matter where you are watching the stream from around the world, we're really grateful. On behalf of SAG-AFTRA, I want to thank you for taking out the time. And it's really been a pleasure. So for those of you who have not yet subscribed to the SAG-AFTRA YouTube channel, you can do it right here, right after you get done watching this today. So please do that. And I want to thank everybody again. What a really terrific job you did. And Charles, fabulous, fabulous moderation. I think it was a real insight into a really strong and amazing community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like that, for sure.
And before we go ahead and log off, I do want to say to all of the members that's watching, just remember that even though our careers are a little bit disrupted right now, just remember that your creativity is not connected to your ability to pursue your career. Okay, so stay creative, do whatever you need to do to stay in contact and in touch with your inner artist. Okay, take care of yourselves, and hopefully hear from y'all sometime soon.
Thank you.
That was a great
Thank
wrap up.
you.
Stay connected. Inner artist and SAG-AFTRA. Thanks, everybody.